The polished wood of the courtroom rail feels cold under my fingertips. It's the kind of cold that sinks deep, settling in your bones, a different kind of freeze than the one that hit me when I first saw the bank statement. The air in here is thick with hushed anticipation, the smell of stale coffee and expensive perfume. He sits across the room, beside his lawyer, pretending to be calm.
He smooths his tie.
A nervous habit I used to find endearing. Now it just makes my skin crawl. My lawyer stands, tall and steady. He holds a sheaf of papers.
Paper.
Miles of it. It seems impossible that paper could carry the weight of a betrayal this deep, but it does. He clears his throat. The judge is impassive, a granite statue in robes. I look at my husband, no, him. The man who shared my bed, my life, my dreams. The man who used the key to my future to open a door to someone else's. He's watching my lawyer, a flicker of unease in his eyes. He has no idea what's coming.
No idea.
Let me know where you're watching from and what time it is. And if you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you know. We had everything. Or I thought we did. A comfortable life. A beautiful home. A marriage built on years of shared history, shared jokes, shared quiet nights on the sofa. My business, a small but growing design firm, was my passion project, my baby. I'd poured my heart and soul into it for a decade. And now it was finally ready to leap. We planned to expand, open a second location, hire more people, take on bigger clients. It felt like the culmination of everything I'd worked for, everything we'd dreamed of together. He was my biggest cheerleader, always saying how proud he was of me. My brilliant wife, he'd call me, building an empire. Getting the loan felt like the key unlocking the gate to that future. A substantial amount, enough to cover the new lease, renovations, equipment, a year's worth of operating costs while the new location found its feet. The negotiations were tough, the paperwork endless, but I signed on the dotted line with a flourish, a thrill running through me. This was it. The next chapter. I remember coming home, him popping champagne, us toasting to our future, our success. He held me close that night, whispering promises of joint vacations, of how my success was his success, how we were a team. The money landed in the business account 2 days later. 7 figures. A number that represented years of sacrifice, late nights, calculated risks. A number that felt heavy with promise. Then came the first strange ripple. A supplier called, politely asking about an overdue invoice. Overdue? I'd scheduled the payment days ago. I checked the business account online. My stomach dropped. The balance was wrong. Drastically wrong. The decimal point seemed to have shifted left by a terrifying number of places. My first thought was a bank error. A glitch. I called the bank immediately, heart pounding. The woman on the other end was calm, professional. She confirmed the large deposit. And then she confirmed the equally large, almost identical withdrawal made the very next day. A wire transfer. To an offshore account. Panic flared hot and sharp in my chest. An offshore account? I hadn't authorized any such transfer. This had to be fraud. Hacking. My mind reeled. I called him, my voice trembling. The money, it's gone. Most of it. Wire transferred out. His reaction was off. Not the shared panic I expected. He was quiet for a beat too long. Gone, he repeated, his voice flat. He sounded resigned? Or maybe just surprised I'd found out so fast. He mumbled something about maybe a scheduled investment transfer he'd forgotten to mention, something about diversifying our portfolio, something vague and unconvincing. He promised to look into it, to call his financial contacts. The knot of unease tightened with every passing hour. His contacts apparently weren't answering. He became distant, stressed, snapping at small things. The man who'd been my rock felt like shifting sand under my feet. I tried to trace the transfer myself, but the bank could only give me limited information. An account number, a bank in a country I'd never heard of, a name that wasn't his, wasn't mine, wasn't anyone I knew. The name felt like a punch to the gut for reasons I couldn't articulate yet. Just an instinct. A terrible, cold instinct. Bills started piling up. The lease payment for the new location was due. Contractors were waiting for their first deposit. My existing staff needed to be paid. The business, which had felt so robust just days before, was suddenly teetering on the edge of an abyss. I confronted him again, harder this time. Tears streamed down my face. Where is it? Where did the money go? My business, our future, it's all going to collapse. He looked away. He mumbled about a bad investment, a terrible risk he'd taken, trying to surprise me with even more money, that it had gone wrong. He promised he'd fix it, he'd get the money back. He looked genuinely miserable. Part of me, the part that had loved him for so long, wanted to believe him. But the cold dread in my stomach told a different story. The story the dread was telling became sickeningly clear a week later. The name on the offshore account transfer kept gnawing at me. It was a woman's name. An unusual one. I typed it into a search engine, my hands shaking. What I found wasn't a financial services company. It was a social media profile. And photo after photo of my husband, smiling, laughing, on expensive trips, at fancy restaurants, cozying up to a woman I'd never seen before. She was stunning, in a way that made my reflection feel instantly faded. My world tilted. The bad investment wasn't a stock gone wrong. It was her. He hadn't lost the money. He'd spent it. On her. The discovery of the affair was a different kind of pain than the theft. It was a gaping wound in my heart, a betrayal so profound it stole my breath. But the combination? The theft for the affair? That was something else entirely. That was calculated cruelty. It wasn't just cheating. It was using the foundation of our shared dreams, the very lifeblood of my business, to build a new life with someone else. It was an act of complete, utter demolition. My lawyer was a bulldog. Calm, sharp, relentless. I sat in his office, numb, recounting everything. He listened patiently, his expression unreadable. When I finished, he leaned forward. "We can pursue this," he said, his voice low. "On multiple fronts. Divorce, of course. But also fraud. Embezzlement. This wasn't just marital funds. This was a business loan specifically for the expansion. He used it for personal gain. That's a different ballgame. He warned me it would be brutal, expensive, time-consuming, that he would fight back, deny everything, try to portray me as hysterical, vindictive. I didn't care. The numb shock was starting to recede, replaced by a cold, hard resolve. He tried to destroy me. He wouldn't succeed. The legal battle began. Just as my lawyer predicted, he lawyered up aggressively. His narrative was that the loan was a joint marital asset, that he had merely invested it in a mutual opportunity that hadn't panned out, that I was overreacting and trying to ruin him. The gall was breathtaking. He even tried to portray himself as the victim of a failed business venture. Meanwhile, the bank was escalating its calls. They wanted their money back. My business was bleeding cash just to stay afloat, delaying payments, dipping into reserves I hadn't wanted to touch. The dream of expansion felt like a cruel joke. Survival was the only goal now. My lawyer kept digging. Bank records, emails, travel itineraries. The paper trail. It wasn't just money. It was gifts, trips, maybe property. One day, my lawyer called.
His voice had a new edge to it. "We found something," he said.
"Remember that large transfer out? The one right after the loan came in? We've traced it. It went to a real estate holding company. And that holding company purchased a villa. In a very desirable location. My blood ran cold.
A villa.
He confirmed the details.
A luxurious villa. Purchased outright. No mortgage.
For a price tag that matched, almost to the dollar, the amount stolen from my business account. And the owner listed on the deed? The woman. His mistress. The sheer, unadulterated audacity of it hit me like a physical blow. He didn't just take my business's future. He used it to buy his mistress a lavish playground. He wasn't just cheating. He was building a gilded cage for his affair with the bricks and mortar of my hard work and my trust. The hurt evaporated, replaced by a searing, ice-cold rage. This wasn't just divorce anymore. This was war. He had used the law, the system, my own assets, to benefit himself and the woman he'd chosen over me.
Fine.
I would use the law to take it all back. And then some. My lawyer explained the strategy. Proving fraudulent transfer. Asset tracing. Going after the villa itself as the direct proceeds of the stolen funds. It was complex, risky. The defense would argue it was a gift, unrelated to the business loan, or that I was mistaken. But we had the dates, the amounts, the direct line from my business account to the villa purchase. It was a strong link, but not guaranteed in court. He needed something more. Something undeniable. The pressure mounted. The bank was now threatening legal action. My business credit score plummeted. Employees were starting to look worried. Friends offered pity or awkward silence. His family, who had welcomed me for years, suddenly saw through him and reached out to me, horrified by what he'd done, offering quiet support. It was a small comfort in a world that felt like it was crumbling around me. Days bled into weeks, weeks into months. Endless meetings with lawyers, accountants, forensic auditors. Piles of documents, spreadsheets, timelines. We built the case, piece by painstaking piece. Tracing every dollar, every transaction, every lie. His defense was weak but aggressive, focusing on trying to muddy the waters, claiming confusion over finances, marital assets, anything to obscure the clear line from my loan to her villa. They filed motions to dismiss, motions to delay. They tried to bury us in paperwork, hoping we'd run out of money or steam. But I was fueled by a cold, quiet fury that was more potent than any despair. I would not break. I would not yield. Then came the breakthrough. Not from bank statements, but from something seemingly insignificant. A series of emails. Emails between him and his mistress, discussing the villa purchase. Casual mentions of the funding coming through soon, referencing specific dates that matched the loan disbursement. Worse for him, one email explicitly referenced the loan purpose, how he was diverting funds intended for his wife's business expansion to their little project. It was a smoking gun, a direct admission, written in his own words. He hadn't covered his tracks as well as he thought. He'd been arrogant, and that arrogance would be his undoing. My lawyer's face when he read those emails was a study in controlled triumph. This, he said, tapping the printouts, changes everything. This proves intent. This proves fraud. This links the loan, the theft, and the villa purchase directly, undeniably, to his knowledge and plan. They can't argue it was a mistake or marital assets anymore. We had him. The trial date arrived. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension. Every breath felt heavy. He sat across from me, looking confident, almost smug. He still didn't know about the emails. He thought his lies, his carefully constructed narrative of confused finances, would hold up.
He thought he was safe.
My lawyer presented our case methodically. The loan documents, the purpose of the loan, the wire transfer details, the purchase agreement for the villa, the name on the deed, the timeline. It was a damning sequence of events laid bare. But it was the cross-examination where the trap truly sprung. My lawyer led him through his testimony, calm and precise. He asked about his understanding of the loan's purpose. He lied, claiming it was for general investment purposes for our joint future. He asked about the wire transfer. He claimed he couldn't recall the specifics, that his financial advisor handled it. Lie after lie, delivered smoothly. Then the emails. My lawyer introduced them quietly. Mr. Husband's last name, he said, holding up the copies. Do you recognize these emails? Are they between you and Mistress's last name? His smug expression faltered. His eyes widened slightly. He looked at the printouts, his face draining of color. He mumbled a hesitant yes. In this email, dated date, my lawyer continued, his voice rising just slightly. You write, and I quote, the funding from my name. Business loan came through today. We can finally move forward with securing the villa. Her expansion can wait, is that correct? The courtroom was silent. You could hear a pin drop. His lawyer objected, weakly, something about privacy, but the judge waved it away. He looked at the email, looked at me, his face a mask of pure, unadulterated shock. Betrayal. He'd thought these were private, gone, erased. He swallowed hard. He couldn't deny his own words. Yes, he whispered, his voice barely audible. That's what it says. My lawyer didn't let up. He went through each relevant email, each damning phrase, confirming his authorship, confirming the context. The villa. The loan. The deliberate diversion of funds intended for my business. He built an irrefutable wall of his own words around him. Finally, my lawyer turned to the judge. Your Honor, he said, his voice ringing with quiet authority. The evidence is clear. These funds were explicitly obtained for the purpose of expanding my client's business. They were fraudulently diverted by the defendant for his personal use, specifically to purchase the property detailed in Exhibit G, registered in the name of Mistress's last name. We request that the court find the defendant liable for fraud and order the immediate seizure and transfer of the asset, the villa located at villa address, back to my client as restitution for the stolen business funds. The judge listened, her face unmoving. She looked from my lawyer to his, whose face was pale, his shoulders slumped. He had no defense against the emails. They were his own confession. The judge spoke. Her voice was calm, deliberate. She recounted the evidence. The loan, the transfer, the emails, the purchase. She stated the legal findings, fraud, misappropriation of funds. And then she delivered the ruling. Based on the irrefutable evidence presented, the judge stated, her voice firm, the court finds in favor of the plaintiff. The defendant is ordered to repay the full amount of the loan, plus damages and legal costs. Furthermore, the court finds that the property located at villa address, purchased with these fraudulently obtained funds, is the rightful asset of the plaintiff. The court hereby orders the immediate seizure of this property and its transfer of ownership to my name, as restitution. A gasp echoed through the courtroom. I felt a wave of shock, then pure, icy vindication wash over me. He stared at the judge, his mouth slightly open. His face turned ashen. His eyes, fixed on the judge, then darted to me. There was no smugness now, only disbelief and terror. As the judge finished speaking, he made a strange sound, a choked gasp, and then his eyes rolled back. He slumped sideways in his chair, collapsing against his lawyer, who scrambled to catch him. The courtroom erupted into chaos. Bailiffs rushed forward. People were shouting his name. He lay there, unconscious, a picture of defeat, surrounded by the ruins of his own making. He tried to steal my future to build his mistress a palace. Instead, he lost everything. The aftermath was a blur of activity. Legal formalities, paperwork to seize the villa, calls to the bank explaining the court order, reassuring my employees. The news spread like wildfire. The man who had tried to destroy me, who had bought his mistress a villa with my loan money, had literally collapsed in court when the judge gave me the keys to that villa. It was a brutal, public humiliation, a poetic justice that felt almost too perfect to be real. The villa was everything the reports described. Luxurious, opulent, sitting on a hill overlooking the ocean. It felt alien, tainted. Walking through the rooms, knowing my stolen future had paid for every marble floor, every designer fixture, every breathtaking view, was surreal. It wasn't a symbol of victory, not really. It was a monument to his betrayal and my pain. I didn't keep it. I couldn't. It was too heavy with poison memories. We sold it. The sale covered the outstanding loan amount, and then some, stabilizing my business completely. More than stabilize it, it put us in an even stronger position than before the theft. The second location opened, successfully. We hired more people. My business thrived, stronger, more resilient, forged in the fire of that experience. He was left with nothing. His reputation in tatters, facing legal repercussions and the public fallout of his actions. The mistress, I heard, left him soon after. The villa, the symbol of their illicit paradise, became the instrument of his downfall and my salvation. The scars remain, of course. Trust is a fragile thing, easily broken, almost impossible to fully repair. The man I loved died the day I saw that bank statement, the day I saw his face and knew he was lying. What was left was a stranger capable of unimaginable cruelty. But from the ashes of that betrayal, something new grew. A steely strength, a clarity I didn't have before. He took my money, he took my marriage, he took my naive belief in a shared future. But he couldn't take my resilience. He couldn't take my ability to fight back. He couldn't take me. And in the end, that was worth more than any villa. If this story hit close to home, I'd love to hear your version in the comments below. Thanks for being here. Subscribing helps bring more of these to life.